these kids are going to be future for tomorrow. Probably next 15 years, 20 years, or 10 years, they'll be leading us rather than we leading them with time.
Have your meal times without any tech interruption. So the first thing would be a role model. So just practice what you preach, because if you're going to be on screen for 10 hours and expect your kid to have no screen, it's not going to happen.
When we used to get bored, what we were doing, maybe we were just rolling up a bottle, we were just maybe filling it up with sand, and we were just enjoying just by shaking that up, right?
With kids, we need to be cautious of how much we expose them to technology. I see a lot of people ask me, being a psychologist from so many years, that when do I need to consult a psychologist? I very frequently tell people who have these questions just one thing, that mental health is not luxury.
Hello, parents. Welcome to part 2 of our podcast with Dr. Mahima Sahi, who is PhD in clinical psychology. If you have missed part 1, I would recommend to go and check our description below. I have attached the link for all of you. So, Dr. Mahima, any tips that you would like to maybe, give to parents or maybe new parents so that, they can actually start managing screen time in a better way, and that's creating a positive impact for them and for their kids' life. Because as such, like we were talking, these kids are going to be future for tomorrow. Probably next 15 years, 20 years, or 10 years, they'll be leading us rather than we leading them with time, right? So how do you
True.
feel parents can, what measures they can like maybe take over there?
Yeah. So there are a lot of measures to take, but I'll state some very simple ones that you can begin with as parents. Even to my clients, I would suggest these as the first go-tos because they're easy to adopt. So the first thing would be a role model. It's very tough, but your kid learns vicariously. So just practice what you preach, because if you're going to be on screen for 10 hours and expect your kid to have no screen, it's not going to happen. Children imitate adults, they learn from adults. So demonstrate healthy screen habits for your kid to adapt to them. It'll be very easy to set boundaries that way. That'll be the first thing and the most important thing. But the second thing would be try and create some screen-free zones at home. I do that at my home. I see my friends do that now, where you design certain areas of your home to be completely tech-free. Do not have a TV in your drawing room. Do not bring phones to your dining table. Have your meal times without any tech interruption. You're learning a lot about eating, about interacting, about behaving when you're having a meal together. So do not have that association break, but create that screen-free zone. Maybe only 2 rooms that can be screen-free are enough for you and your kid to have a digital break, so to say. To not place any tech in your dining rooms, not place any tech in your bedrooms, because then it becomes easy for you to come up in a common area, sit together. I remember us sitting together watching TV with our parents because there was no other way. And then it also brought up a lot of dining table conversations where they used to ask, how was school and how are your friends, etc., which has gone away now because you have independent TVs in every room. You have independent phones running, tablets running. So there is no reason to come out and sit together. So have that screen-free zone. It's a big shift in behavior. And then try to encourage play. It's very simple, but very effective. Like we rightly said initially in the podcast also, that as kids, we used to have outdoor play. The moment the electricity went off, we were on the streets trying to do whatever fun activities that are possible to entertain ourselves with friends. To bicycle along in 30 degrees, 35 degrees, 40 degrees, it didn't make a difference because we used to have a good time doing that. I don't think it exists now, but it needs to re-come up because there is a need for having play. Play builds a lot of sportsmanship. It builds resilience. It also helps you cultivate imagination and innovation in that sense, because it makes you creative to find out B routes when something's not happening, how to win over someone, how to also take failure, because these are life skills, by the way. And kids now miss out on these because they only are exposed to screens. And screens can only have controlled behavior. They can't have anything beyond because they're auto-programmed to only limit you to that storybook, I remember story sessions in childhood, physical story sessions with a grandma or with a teacher or with a friend, where when they narrate stories, conversations used to loop up in different directions. It used to go towards spirituality, go towards relationships, go towards family bonding dynamics. A lot of concepts of what we had formulated when we were doing those physical sessions or storytelling or even interactive play, that needs to come back. And as a parent, you should have the effort to bring back that play in your child's routine. Whether you are engaged with the child in play would be the best thing. If not, allow your child to also have a playtime beyond the screens. So these will be three things that would be most effective. I think very easy to do, to have screen-free zones, to encourage play, but also model what you would want your child to follow. That is the biggest one, the most difficult, but the most effective to follow. Is my behavior leading to more negative behaviors in my kid? If yes, then that's not a healthy sort of parenting. I also understand that practically it's impossible to do away with technology. We don't need to do away with it. With kids, we need to be cautious of how much we expose them to technology, because we want to cushion our kids, which is fine. We should cushion our kids, but not from the intent of protecting them from everything. They need to learn to protect themselves right from the get-go. That's how resilience cultivates. It's not a day's job. Then parents end up coming and complaining that, you know what, they can't even manage school. They can't even deal with bullying. They can't even manage what's going on with their friends. Yes, they can't because we've never allowed them to early on, and now they can't. And then it doesn't become the kid's fault. Most of our work with kids, even at Embrace, is more work with parents than with kids, because they need to be better parents to cultivate better kids. And habits are, in that sense, translated. They are not built. So what you're translating is what your child's building. And we need to take more accountability to what we are exposing our kids to.
That's actually true because, in fact, if we talk about generally what people do these days, if they feel something, okay, maybe why is my baby not sitting by the age of 6, 7 months? They're just going to Google it up, and then Google is going to throw them to a different time zone.
That's worse off.
Quite hazardous. Yeah. It's
Yeah, because there is any and every information available on Google. And I absolutely abstain from recommending any Google link in that sense to information that you need clinically to support yourself. There should be no interface between this clinician and client buyer tech to help them understand what works, what doesn't work, because there are all sorts of bogus sources, all sorts of sham websites releasing the very vague contents. Until and unless it's backed by a WHO, an APA, bodies that are internationally validated, accredited, or until and unless a clinician is speaking to you from X years of practical experience and academic bandwidth, I don't think as a parent you should try to rely on that information, because it becomes very confusing, but it can do a lot of damage that you do not realize as parents. I see a lot of parents following tips from a reel that they saw on, I don't know, somewhere released by some influencer who's not technically apt to follow. These are real things that parents come up with. They say, I saw a video on YouTube as shorts. Just made me think, let me just implement it with my child. Without any understanding, are there any risks of doing it? If not benefits, forget benefits. If there are risks, there is no reason to do it with your kid, because sometimes you can't undo it. And I think parents don't realize the gravity of it, because they think it's fine. Like, we can just, for instance, like I'll cite a very simple, very recent example of what happened with the case. Is there was an instance of sharenting. Sharenting is a new concept where you share the content from your kid as a first day to school, 6 months, 3 months, and a cake and a picture. And you're kind of releasing information of your kid every now and then. One, without the kid having any consent in it, because the kid wouldn't know. Second, you're increasing risks to not only cybercrime, but safety of your child. Somebody who has a negative intent is watching out for where is the location, what is your kid doing, which school is the kid in, what are the timings. But we as parents just don't realize what we are doing when we are digitally trying to coexist with the kids. And there is a lot that you need to learn as parents now, because times were simpler earlier. There was no digital invasion, the risks were really low. Now there are so many screens, and the risks are these many to manage. So you need to be cautious on what you're doing as a parent with your kid. It's imperative. It needs to be taken responsibility for.
We will be having many such conversations from top industry experts so that your baby gets the best possible future. So, parents, now what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, and comment so that we can create an impact on other parents' lives.